So everybody, you're very welcome. Margaret Murray is my name. I'm the Student and Membership Officer in NALA, and delighted to be here with you today to tell you about the fund. We're going to look a little bit at last year's fund, just to give you ideas for what might happen, what you might be able to do this year. And also to let you know the student feedback that came up as well. Your centre might have given feedback, but just what came up from all the centres. And then we'll give you the essential information for applying for the fund this year. And we're delighted to have a few people from centres who availed of the fund last year. So they're going to just say what they did. And so what is the Student Development Fund? It's a fund that of 40,000 that NALA receives from Solace, and we administer it then we give it out to local centres, and it's about non-tuition group activity. So not what you do as part of your normal run-of-the-mill. It's something additional to that. And usually it's out of the centre. Often activity is carried out, maybe visiting a historical thing of interest. Could be like Castle, or it could be a trip to the Dáil, or sometimes people do arts and crafts kind of things like pottery and things like that. So you'll get a flavour of the things people do. But because of the COVID pandemic, we also, with centres not being able to maybe do activities so much over the last year, we also were giving funding for technology items and, computers, laptops, phones. And there was some other interesting things bought last year. There was a machine for embroidery bought by one of the centres in Galway. So and visors as well. So that you can use your imagination there for what you feel to be useful to students in your centre, and from talking to students in your centre what they would find useful. So as part of the deal then as well, students or the centres agree to give student feedback. So we give out a theme, and then we expect that'll take about an hour to do with students, where you ask students their opinion, and then you summarise that and send it back to NALA, and you give that in your report to NALA, and it's an online report. But for us, that's very important in NALA, because it's hearing from students what their views are on the topic. And it's one of the ways that we hear from students. We have student days normally as well, and we also have a student subcommittee. But it's a good feed into NALA about what students are thinking on a topic. And we also share that feedback with other organisations like Solace, our funder, but also the Adult Literacy Organisers Association and Education Training Boards Ireland and AINTAS, so we share that out, but it certainly informs NALA's work. So who benefits from the fund is adults and young people improving their literacy and numeracy and digital skills in a centre or on a programme, and also English for speakers of other languages, so ESOL learners. And it's for students on courses up to and including level 4. That's on the National Quality and Qualifications of Ireland framework. So students can be doing one-to-one, or they can be doing group tuition, and they can also be part of another programme, like it could be return to education, family learning, health, community education, or say Youth Reach programme. And so I'm going to look a little bit just at last year's fund, just to give you a picture. So 57 centres applied for the fund last year, and 48 centres ended up taking it up. And about half of those bought technology items. Now, some of them also did an activity. They may have gone out, but also bought, And there was 14 ETBs. There's 14 of the 16 ETBs involved, and 370 students took part in events through the fund, and 658 gave feedback. So we asked specifically, how many took part in the activity and how many gave feedback. And the kind of events, I'm going to pass you over to Ruth there, if that's all right, Ruth. Hi. Ruth is from Fermoy, and she's just going to tell you
hello.
What she did. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks, Margaret. Yeah, so I mean, in Fermoy, we've been really grateful to avail of the Student Development Fund. We've sort of applied over many years and had so many different educational trips. It's always educational trips that we do with, a mixture of like students from across many different classes, and some one-to-one students as well. And we've been all over the place over the years, and it's always been really beneficial. And we've always had this like joint planning. You'd go around the classes, get ideas, go around all the core groups, get ideas, work with students to sort of make the plan for this. Where should we apply for this year? What have we done already? What would we like to do? And of course, it's there are different students coming on board all the time. And I must say as well that the things from the outings are then often can be used in classes. So we had the costings for the outing sort of done by a level 2 quantitative problem solving group, maths level 2 group, with I think our outing before last. So this year, the last outing was taken a bit later than normal in 2021 in the autumn term, and we went to Photo Wildlife Park, and I suppose one of the things we've done in more recent years is that we've combined on our tour with one of the other North Cork centres. And that's been really beneficial to the students because they would never, it's a rare opportunity for students from 2 different centres to meet. So we've got students from different classes. So the outing that we did in the autumn term involved students from a communications level 1 class, a horticulture level 3 class, computer classes, and 2 students who are sort of progression students into level 4, but having come through level 3 with us. And so from all, different courses, getting this chance to sort of meet and do this activity together. Not what we'd normally do when we couldn't. This year we just went our Fermoy group and a slightly smaller group and quite local. The wildlife park was perfect for us as an outdoor venue. We took packed lunches, with the COVID situation. But 2 years ago we had been to FOTA with the Mallow group, our another North Cork centre, and we had done 2 different activities. So the Fermoy group, in fact, had gone to FOTA House, and the Mallow group had gone to the wildlife park. And this is where the idea this year that the Fermoy group wanted to do the park this year. And we had our sort of separate outing. We all went together. We travelled separately. We had our separate sort of visit, and then we all had lunch together in a hotel where we mingled. People sat at different tables with mixed groups from different across the centres. And that's where we had our lunch and sort of looked at in small groups together the questions that Nala asked us to work on together and explore as a group and give feedback to Nala about. So it's been each year such a beneficial thing to be able to do. Very beneficial for our students. I'm sort of was interested to, like with the group that we took this year, a huge percentage of this group wouldn't be students with their own public transport. It's an opportunity as well to go beyond the normal sort of easy bus route access places for them, and sort of it really is an experience that some people wouldn't get the opportunity to have so often as well. So it's so really I suppose every year has been such an appreciated and good experience for our students, and quite often, would also, like Margaret was saying, integrate students from quite different courses with our ESOL students. Would also, many years we'd have some students from those classes who wouldn't normally get the chance to say maybe mix more broadly,
with other students.
So it's very valuable opportunity. So
great, Ruth. Listen, thanks a
Margaret.
million for that, Ruth. Appreciate it, just to hear your experience of it. I'm going to pass to Teresa next. Teresa Silk is in Youth Reach in Lisnamult, in County Roscommon. All right, Teresa.
Thanks, Margaret. So last year we availed of the fund. We were lucky to get funding, and we decided to do some barista training for our students. So the idea came from, as part of the Leaving Cert Applied program that we offer here, the students usually get 3 opportunities to go out on work placement. But with COVID, they only had 1 placement. So their CVs, we work a lot on careers and career progression and CVs and that with them. And we found that there was a big difference with this cohort of student insofar as the amount of skills and work experience that they had built up on their CVs compared to students pre-COVID. So the students were interested in getting skills, that they may have missed out on from the workplace. So we did a survey of ideas, and everyone was really positive about the barista training. It was an idea that came from the students, and they were interested in it. The other side of it is, I suppose, through COVID as well, like the whole takeaway and coffee and became even more popular. And also with the hospitality industry now, it's the sector where there seems to be a lot of work and a lot of jobs. So from our students' perspective, going out now, leaving us in June, this certificate in barista training will help them hopefully to get some work. And it's something they have on their CVs, and it's a certificate they have. So we went to the Galway Barista School, which is in Tuam. So we got a bus and we went, and there was a whole day of training, really, really good training, excellent facilitators. And so by the end of the day, the students were all able to make their barista style coffees with their little heart shapes on top and little leaves. And afterwards, 3 of the students actually have completed work experience in cafes where they've been using barista machines. So it was very successful from our point of view, and I'd like to thank Nala for the opportunity and for making the big difference to our students anyway. So thank you.
Brilliant. Listen, thanks, Teresa, for sharing your experience there. Brilliant. Thank you. And now we're going to talk to Deirdre O'Callaghan from Cavan Adult Learning Centre. Deirdre, you're there, all right? I saw you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Well, we actually applied for the technology part of the funding. The reason behind it was that the tablets that we had were very, pardon me, I'm a little bit croaky at the moment. I'm isolating. I won't keep you too long. The tablets that we had were very, they were bought in 2014 and very, very, very slow to respond when people were touching them. So it wasn't a very good experience for the learner when you're trying to engage them in actually going online for the first time. So we set about with the students to apply for this funding, which it kind of empowered them actually, because they felt they could do something about it. And it was actually very, very successful. It was a very easy process. I thought it'd be more difficult because the students weren't in the classroom, but they really were engaged and giving me lots of feedback and took all my phone calls till we can get the application together. So since then, we ran a host and a series of different types of introduction to smartphones, introduction to tablets, going online for the first time. Even Adult Learners Week this week, there's been 3 classes run with them. I've run 2 classes since October. So it has actually been very successful. The other thing is that some people hadn't bought a tablet, so it was good that they got the experience of it first before they went to buy it themselves and could make a better informed decision. I don't have much more to say about the tablets. The one thing I would say, if anybody's thinking of applying for the fund, it's actually a very easy process. And from somebody who applies for a lot of funding, I found this one a very straightforward process, and I definitely will be applying again. Okay.
Great, Deirdre. Listen, thanks a million, Deirdre, that's great. Thanks to the three of you, much appreciated. I'm going to just fly through some of the findings from there's a few photos there just of other things that happened last year. Bunratty Castle, Kilkenny went to the Butler Gallery, Navan went to Newgrange with a group of ESOL students, and say that there was the TV there looks kind of funny as TV, but actually in Letterkenny they commented that people were using, it was for ESOL students, and it kind of got the ESOL students watching national TV in Ireland a little bit more than they might have before, and they've run it on a very social kind of basis. And also Tipperary to be made an app. So you might like to look that up. It's called Sound Out, and it's about a phonics-based app. So they did that with the fund. So what did the students say in the feedback last year? Just to say, I'm going to go quite quickly just because of the time here, but we have a report on last year's fund, and if you'd like to see that, it's on our website, on the NALA website. But we asked students what they said they learned during the COVID pandemic that they'd use in the future. And digital skills was the most frequently said item from the students. And that included, having to go on Zoom, corresponding with family, and also the difficulties and struggles that people had using technology. They also said about protecting themselves and others, and relationships with family, and friends are crucial. So you can have a look at the detail of that. So getting online had lots of problems, not great internet connection and no devices. And so these are all in the report if you'd like to have a look. Students also gave tips for well-being, which, you could print up and put in your centre. It might be of interest. They're good stuff, doing exercise, especially walking and so on. But they're from students in centres. And we also asked about how they'd like to learn in future. And 43 out of the 48 centres in those centres, they said they'd like face-to-face in the classroom. So that was most popular. But also a lot of students, 27 centres, said they'd like a mix of face-to-face and online learning. And there was a lot of talk about the importance of peers as well. Students from 16 centres said that. A lot of struggles highlighted. And so we've a little bit about the impact of the fund in the report as well. So I want to kind of move on quickly before we finish up about just applying for the fund this year. We, just to say, first of all, we're dependent on receiving the funding from Solace, but at the moment we have the fund open, and the closing date is the 31st of March. And we plan to let centres know then by the 19th of April if they've been successful or not. And you can use the fund then from the 20th of April to the 31st of October. And we ask you then to have all the report and receipts and things into NALA by the 31st of October. And it's a fund where you pay out the money first and then we reimburse you. So who can apply for the fund then? It's for members of NALA, and for the organisations, small organisations, it costs €50 to join NALA as a member, and you can make one application to the fund once you're a member. And large organisations, for example, would be like ETBs or that, they can make 2 applications underneath in that, so 2 centres can come in under the ETB, for example, on that. If you're not a member, you can join online, and it's up at the top of our website to become a member. Just to tell you how we judge the applications, we have 3 people judging the applications, myself and also a student from our subcommittee. And thirdly, we have the representative we have on our subcommittee from the Adult Literacy Organisers Association. And the way we kind of judge them, we've it all fairly laid out very clearly. And these are the criteria for the fund. So we just want to make sure that we have the right target group, and we give 10 points for that. And then we do judge the applications on students being involved in deciding what you should do, what you would do with the fund. And we also ask that you consult with your wider organisation, and we want to make sure it's clear what we'd be funding. So we recommend that you tell us something specific that you're looking for funding for, even if you're not 100% sure, because then we can judge if that's a good idea to fit the fund. So for example, if you say we're going to go on a cultural trip, that's really vague and we don't know what that means. Whereas if you say we're going to go to this castle, and you can change your mind at a later date, but you do need to come back to myself and Nala to just run by the idea to make sure it fits with the fund. So if you do that, and we do say, we may not be able to give you the same amount of funding if you do that, but we want to be sure of what we're funding, and the clearer you are about that, the better. So we have 20 points for that. And we give funding for if it supports student development, and that's the kind of stuff like that sort of empowering to students that is about their personal and social development. We also note how you're going to tell students about the event so that it's sort of fairly, people can fairly take part. It's not just one little group of students that are getting to use the fund that you tell us. And it can be one group of students that are getting to use the fund, but you need to tell us who they are and why you're choosing that group, say. So we just want to make sure that people, most people are the right a group you think is very important for this fund, that they get to hear about it. And we give points as well for how clearly the costs are shown. So if you've got a costing, like an invoice or something to show what, if you're buying computers, how much they cost, that's more concrete. We can say, yeah, that's clear what we'd be funding again. And then we do have 10 points as well for, there might be something of interest, like we are interested in sort of targeting the furthest behind first. So like, let's say if you're working with travelers or homeless people, we might give an extra 10 points for that. Or if it's a particular group that are harder to reach, you don't have to do that, but just to say we do support that in particular. All right, so that's how that's how we kind of judge the applications. And we do have a booklet that gives you all the information about how to apply for the fund, and that's on our website as well. And we have a list of the ideas of what was funded last year in the report from last year, and that's on our website. So that's good if you are thinking of applying. You might just, it's on page 5 or 6 of the report, and you could just have a quick read down what everybody did. So you'll see Ruth, Deirdre and Teresa's activities listed, but you'll get other ideas as well for what people did. And just to say, if you have any questions, you can give me a shout in Nala. My email address is mmarie@nala.ie. And that's all really I wanted to cover, but we do have time for a question or two. I think it's 5 to Aoife. That's the time I can see. But I do want to thank our contributors, Teresa, Ruth, Deirdre and Aoife, for being there as a support in the background. So if anybody has any questions, you can just, maybe you should be able to unmute yourself, Aoife, is that all right? If anybody has any questions. Claire,
just to say, obviously keeping an eye on this all through last year, and just to thank everybody who has applied for the fund. I read the report myself, and just to see the variety of activities and I suppose innovative kind of activities come through was lovely. We loved seeing, things like the barista training, just something really practical. When I was reading about it, it was nearly something I wanted to do myself. Just even to hear about, how students organized the trip, something like photo themselves, and then it was an opportunity to meet other people. And transport does come through constantly as a real barrier for people, participating in activities. So great to see that the fund is being used that way. And yeah, delighted to know that the fund was easy to apply for, Deirdre, just when you mentioned about getting the technology. And sometimes it is something like a television or something very practical rather than the high-end technology. Like, it's lovely to see people getting digital pens, and maybe that's something that other people might get an idea to say that's something we could apply for too. But sometimes it's stuff just that you wouldn't get a chance, or it would be very difficult for you to get via other kind of funding streams. So just to reiterate what Margaret was saying, thanks everybody who's applied for it, and spread the word out. It is there. There is hopefully going to be 40,000 if all of the funding comes through from Solace, that we will be able to allocate.
Thanks, Claire.
I think it was really interesting listening to the contributors talk about the value of the fund. And I suppose from my perspective, working in NALA, I always read these reports and I use them. So to see like the 33 centres said that digital skills are essential, I would use that in our plain English training, trying to help writers of text and forms to remember, to have that in mind when they're crafting those kind of documents for people. So I often find the feedback on specifics, like what's easy or what's hard in instances around digital literacy, or their experience with certain services and how literacy friendly they are, very useful for people. So it's great for me, and I think it's great. So thanks everybody.
Thanks, Claire. Any other questions? If anybody does have any questions again, just feel free to email me in NALA, mmurray@nala.ie. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Finishing up on time.
Thank you very much. Good weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Margaret.
Bye.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.